Greetings, Shomo.
Hello.
My friend, how are you today?
Good.
All right. So
Excellent.
I see we have some other people on the call. Hello, Chris. Hello, Jerome. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us on, I'm assuming, is a holiday for some of you on that. We are going to get started in
You're
just...
picking up.
Pardon me? I'm just going to go grab a tea and then we're going to get started. So just bear with me. And like it's... Oh. I had some feedback coming through of a video that started playing. Actually, the live feed of this, it's being recorded to YouTube, live streaming, and it started playing and couldn't figure out where the noise is coming from. Like I said, we're going to get started momentarily. I'm just getting my beverage, a tea. And Jerome, where are you joining us from today? Let us know if you can put in the chat or in the, or if you unmute and just let us know, that would be great. Let me just get rid of some.
Yeah, I'm from the Bronx.
The Bronx, okay.
From the Bronx.
And how are you surviving COVID? How is that going?
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
I'm breaking up? Shomo, can you hear me?
You're breaking up. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
I can hear
I'm
you.
gonna go out and come back in again. I'm gonna go out and come back in again.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I can hear you pretty well.
Thank you. Okay. It might be a nice small group today. So,
and I'm using a clip over here, so that should take care of that. This whole thing rubbing against the.
Sounds good. Actually, you sound
color,
really good.
Right.
Yeah. And I like your background. That's really.
Looks learned. Wise and learned.
That's what we want. We want to look learned.
This is from the from a meetup, a standard meetup background.
Oh, I see. Okay.
A lot of meetup groups have this background, so I.
Okay, got it from that. Hey, you know what I saw? I was on a call on Saturday, and two of the people on the call had actually a video playing on their background.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. That's the first time I saw that. Do you know what? Is that special? Is that within Zoom, or how does that work?
That's within Zoom, and Zoom has like you can have like I think you can do GIFs, and so there would be like the northern lights drifting past, or palm trees swaying in the wind, that type of a thing. Like Zoom has a few of them standard inbuilt, and then you can also bring in a couple of them. I don't know about total video clips though.
Well, two of the guys, one was a scene of a river with clouds going through, and it was in loop. Mm-hmm. And I found it a bit distracting because I wanted to see when it was going to loop. Mm-hmm. So, pardon me. Okay. We are going to get started in just one more minute. See, people know if they come at about 4 after. That's when it starts. I shouldn't be reinforcing. I shouldn't be rewarding them for that. But let me see what else we need. What else I need to have my beverages. And we are recording to YouTube, so people have access to this. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to get started and see if more people join us. But thank you very much to Jerome and Chris for joining us, and welcome to the to their show. It's a show that's based on being able, helping people understand how subject matter experts are able to move people from point A to point B, hence here to there. So let me just get my camera just a bit more set up. That's a bit too much. We don't want to lose T-Rex in the background. Show some of my art. That's good. Okay. So today we are interviewing Shomo. And Shomo, I'm not even going to try and pronounce your last name because I know I'm going to get it wrong. So if you would,
Ganguly.
Ganguly, Shomo Ganguly. And you are based in, tell
New
us where you live.
Jersey, New Jersey, Woodbridge, New Jersey. Yep.
And Woodbridge is a town, right?
Woodbridge is a township. It's a sort of a collection of 10 towns.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing of like there is, if you search online, you will see something called the Woodbridge model. Like, so if it was broken up into all the 10 towns, then it would cost each of the individual towns a lot more in terms of property taxes and not. And so there's an interesting thing around the Woodbridge township in itself.
Strength in numbers, as it were.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So how long have you been in Woodbridge?
I have lived here since 2014. Like I was employed with Cognizant at that time, and Prudential was my client, and that's what got me to Woodbridge. So it was a matter of happenstance that I landed up in Woodbridge and decided to stay on.
Okay. And am I correct in assuming that you weren't born in the United States?
I wasn't. I was born in Calcutta, but raised in a town which was 200 kilometers, so about 120, 140 miles from Calcutta.
Right.
And in the context of Indian cities, it is called a town, but in the context of the Western, like North America, urban spots, it would be a large city where I grew up. Went to a school run by Christian brothers from Dublin. So it was.
They were there to convert. They were there to convert.
No, that's the whole thing about the Christian brothers. Their mission, it was formed as an educational institution. So a lot of the Indian missionaries were to convert, but the Christian brothers had one focus to set up schools.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about like the conversion you spoke about, many people don't know Christianity in India predates the Roman Catholic Church. It is from.
You're right. I did not know that. You're right. I certainly did not know that.
So Christianity in India starts from about 52 AD, which was like earlier than the Greek Catholic Church. It's more like the Syrian Catholic Church and stuff like that. So it's a rich history, but it was confined to one part of the country. Western influence came in a big way, and all of that. So
it's interesting because when I was in grade 1, I was actually in a Catholic school and run by nuns, and yeah, it was. I don't remember much of it. I remember I failed grade 1 because I took it in French, and I didn't have enough French background. It wasn't immersion; it was actually a French school. And my mother talks about some of the interesting things with the nuns, how the nuns treated us and whatnot. But what's your education? What's your background?
So I like out of high school, I went to study statistics. So my subjects were, my major was statistics. The other subjects were economics and mathematics. While in college, I hated statistics, and so that was my problem in life. Like anything that any academic thing that I went through, which had an exam at the end of it, I would revolt against it. And much later on, I went back and I was speaking with my teachers, Brother McCarthy, and said that, sir, you know that this is a problem that I had when I was in school. And he said that you were not alone. Brother Kelly had that problem too. Like he was another teacher over there, and so we somehow revolted against the structure and stuff of asking people to follow a particular curriculum. My syllabus was always very different from the from the prescribed syllabus.
Really? Really? And you got away with this.
And somehow I barely managed to scrape through life with some formal degrees here and there, but but when I finally landed up in a place where I was taking this program on computer programming, and it had a test, an exam at the end of it, and I was still enjoying it. So, which was like a miracle or a wonder of wonders to me. Um, so I had went through. So that's why I have been trying out a lot of things in my life, and finally got to Woodbridge at some point. So,
Right. Right. But you have a passion for helping businesses.
I do, and I don't know where it came from, but when I started working with Pricewaterhouse, so my business exposure dates back to 1984 when I became an intern for in an audit firm, and so from statistics I went into accounting and also hated that. And but then I finally got a steady job that my parents were okay with. At that time, it was I got a kick out of solving problems, like solving. It might be mathematical problems. It might be business translating business problems into logic and passing it off to developers who would be able to program code that in. So problem solving was something which was a satisfaction in itself. But then from there, I started focusing on the people for whom I solve these problems for, and it was as much about the people as the problems I would solve. And it went on from there to a stage where I realized, so this was around 91, 92, the early 90s. Fast forward to the mid, like 2005, 2003, 2005, that time frame, I realized this thing had evolved into something which was making rich shareholders richer. So in the corporate world, someone, the major shareholder of a business, selling his business to an IBM, becoming richer, and all the people who had tirelessly worked to get some solution in place or solve a piece of problem and then install it suddenly became irrelevant. And that did not sit very well with me. To the extent that in my next job, where I was in more of an outsourcing organization called Cognizant Technology Solutions, uh, it became even more remote, and it was all about uh, putting people into positions, open positions. It reached a level where my doctor prescribed a change in job, and he couldn't control my blood pressure and stuff. So I looked around and said, like, okay, I've been doing some stuff all throughout my life. If I filter out what I enjoy doing most and what I think I do best, where can I apply this skill? What is the problem which would give me that sense of satisfaction? And the statistics which jumped out at me or spoke to me was a lot of businesses, small businesses, go out of business in the third to fifth or seventh year of their life. And I thought like this was something which was worth getting into, and that's how I refocused myself. And I it's as much as about solving problems for small businesses, and thereby helping those businesses thrive, grow, prosper. You are mute, Luke.
Wow, I even still happens to me. Strange. Yeah. Hey, welcome. Okay, wait, hold on here. Let's see. Let's try this again. Thoughtful question, take two. Okay. I have been waiting to use this on my webinars forever. Just like my other prop is, would you please speak her to the microphone? My daughter gave this to me for my birthday, for my last birthday. So yeah.
So how many people have leaned over to speak to the microphone?
Right. Fully not realizing it's wood. So we'll find out as we keep using it. Okay, so take three. No, I'm not going to click it. So let me understand this correctly. You had a job in the corporate world where you were doing exactly what you were paid to do, and that is to make the business successful, and therefore somebody profited from that.
I wouldn't say I was doing exactly what I was, because I have been an outlier a lot of times. I have taken stuff to my bosses and said that, hey, could we do this? So in the and keeping in mind the way, the structure and the culture of that organization, I have I was always trying to be what you would call an entrepreneur. And one of the things which I remember doing was introducing like a behavioral assessment tool so that teams can bond with each other, or managers would know when there was a problem, how much of it was chemistry versus how much of it was real issue. So again, that the theme of working with people sort of was there all throughout.
Right. So you were helping. So you're doing your job. Business were making money. I'm assuming you were remunerated well for that.
I was at least part of my. So yeah, I was. I shouldn't complain.
I'm not hearing you complain. I'm just trying to understand some of really your, let's
Correct,
just call
and
it
it
your
was
operating system.
right, and it was like one of the things which had been stopping me from moving out, even when I was facing these challenges, was that comfortable paycheck would come in at the end of each month, and the bonus each year.
Yeah. Oh, and then the bonus on top of it. Yeah. And I've seen that. I've worked with a lot of people who, very young, they go into some sort of trade, and then they can't perpetuate that. They can't go on that trade because it's just been too hard on their body, but they can't extradite themselves from the money that they're making because of the lifestyle they came with that. So when you decided so the heart of your decision to do this is that it was financially rewarding, but there was something else lacking. There was something else, and that was what no soul. Like what? How would you?
Yeah, I would say that like I was struggling with a sense of purpose. Like
Okay.
why was I doing what I was doing? It didn't make sense anymore. Like and that was like it when it who you are, when you lose sense of your identity, is when that's I think the greatest threat to any individual. Like if
Absolutely.
you feel that if you feel there's a like you and I in our different other discussions, we talk about the Maslow's hierarchy and things which you bring up all the time. But even under that is the sense of identity, like who am I, and what's my purpose, why am I here? So if that is threatened, then the rest of it sort of you always struggle to make. It's difficult to pull yourself together.
That's right. That's right. Because your compass isn't on north anymore. Your compass is something else on that. Do you mind sharing what age you were when you came to that realization?
Um, this was so the first time it struck me. It was I would say around 2005-ish. I am 61 born, so around 44-ish or so.
Right. Okay. On that. That's when you first started noticing it.
Right. That's when it suddenly, and it interestingly, I'm sure this was there in the subconscious for a while,
Yeah.
but the trigger was a specific, like a team of young consultants who had worked hard with me on a project. It was in Toyota, uh, and then they went to another project, and they started working 12 hours a day right from the get go. And it was a 4 month project. Because I had like an interest in where they were going, I followed them. And I went, like, even without being in that project, I went, lived through their experience. And it gave me enough sense of detachment because I was not immersed in it and saw what was happening. Might be that was when I realized. And then that is when I realized that I knew what was wrong, or what I didn't like about the situation.
So it was this. It sounds like might have been something unsettled, but you really couldn't put your finger on it. You know it, and the reason I'm curious about the age is, you're familiar with Carl Jung?
No.
Oh, okay. Carl Jung was a contemporary of Sigmund Freud,
Okay.
and Carl Jung is known for things like the the collective consciousness. Oh, I should know this.
Mm, mm,
Anyway, Carl Jung talked about the morning of your life and the afternoon of your life.
mhm, mhm,
And the
mhm,
morning of your life is about, and I know we've covered this recently, but I just
mhm,
like to share it with the rest of the people here. So the morning of your life is about accumulation, it's about gathering, it's about basically establishing yourself, having your family, and doing and doing and doing. And then we go into the afternoon of our life, and the afternoon of our life is, anywhere from 40 onward. It's kind of like 40 to 50 is the differentiator on this. And then people get into their 40s and they're just like, okay, I've been on my career path. I have the wife, I have the ex-wife, maybe not with you here, Shomo, but I have the ex-wife. I've got the 2.3 kids. I've accumulated all this stuff. I go on my holidays. What's the point? Why am I doing this all? And then what also happens is that generally their parents or people they know that's older, uncles, aunts, maybe their parents or great grandparents are starting to die off if they haven't already. They're starting to pass on. And then what's ended up happening is mortality hits people in the face. It certainly did with me. And it was interesting because once I got on the other, I'm 57, and once I got on the other side of 50, all of a sudden my mortality was a whole lot more in my face and whatnot. And then, so what Carl Jung says is that we go into the afternoon of our life, and the afternoon of life is about quality over quantity. It's about purging. It's about having less. Less is more. We don't need as much. We're not as interested in as many things. And what we end up doing is our priority shift. And that kind of sounds like what you went through was this kind of like, and we ask the questions, how do I want to spend the rest of my life? What do I want to do? And it's suggested that the best work we do in our life is on the other side of 50 because of the fact is that we have our different priorities and whatnot. Did you ever go through a midlife crisis?
I wouldn't say a midlife crisis, but I remember on the 37th birthday, the third of my life, I we had just gotten off another grueling project, um, and I was the lead of a sub team in that project, and it was in Calcutta. I was in transit from one of the, like, city office to an outlier sort of a office in the office transport. And it suddenly struck me, my grandparents, my grandfather, and all my grandparents had lived, passed on around, when they were around 70 years old. And this was my 37th birthday, and I suddenly thought that most likely the years behind me were more than the years ahead of me.
Right.
And don't know how long I'll live, and thank God for that, that I don't know how long we
Right.
will live. But at the same time, it was a bit like, it was a moment where, hmm, uh, time to take stock, or like it wasn't as pronounced as that, but it was like, I can say that was the first time I was conscious about actually measuring. Have I done enough? And then I remember somewhere around, and this is beyond the 2005 mark, that realization I talked about. I was in my next job, and I was again in India. I was on a flight from Pune to Bangalore, Pune to Chennai, and there was a stopover, and it was again another birthday of mine. And the sense which came to me that, okay, in a typical winemaking process, you age the wine, and then the wine comes out. After that, you bottle it and you sell it. So I had that feeling of, whatever could be done has been done. It's now
There's no more stomping of the grapes.
right. It's now in that process of being like the wine aging and maturing. And I fortunately I have proved myself wrong, that I went through two more sort of reinvention of myself after that. But I am in the greatest journey of my life as of now, like having the time of my life going through this discovery since I went into my own gig. But it is it's somewhat like, if you don't do something very drastic, then it becomes very predictable, right? And a lot of my friends, co-workers, colleagues are in that stage now, like where they are doing stuff and it is a repetition, it's a repetition, it's a repetition. And
would you say that's because they made the safer choice? I don't want to
yes,
I don't want to
yes,
make
yeah,
kind of a
it's
judgment on that, but
correct. Safe, or what they thought was right for them, right?
right.
So when I quit working, had my doctor not told me that he had not, my doctor prescribed a change in jobs, and when he did, I realized the risk of having this job was higher than the risk of being unemployed, right? So the risk of continuing on that path was far higher. And that's what was then it became, okay, I need to, yes, it is not a comfortable thing that I'm getting into, but it is the most likely, the most logical and sane thing to do, even just from a self-preservation perspective.
It's interesting because I've heard people say there's a statement that I think is true. Two things that people fear: change and things staying the same.
Mhm.
And it's this idea that, I don't like it, but if I have to change and that kind of stuff. And I know I'm definitely that's something that plagues me also. So tell me about what you're doing now and what is your passion about business? What is that? Like, why do you want to help businesses?
Uh, so mm, so actually, like when you talk about passion is not something which you can, it defies logic, right?
Hmm.
It's more from a thing of emotion. And I think, like I have this, and we have talked about this before, for whatever reason, I feel I have been, when I helped someone and I know that I have made some change in that person's life, um, most often, like any other human being, you like to be acknowledged as for having made a contribution. But I have been through enough of these cycles to know that, like, I should not expect any acknowledgement. And it has also so happened that I have been rather like the it's not only that there has not been any acknowledgement, it has actually gone the other way around, where people almost resented me for having helped them. for having gotten them a job or whatever. Like no one likes to be in a situation where they feel that they are not in control, right? And when you are helping another person, it's almost like that you are telling them that even if you don't say it to their face, that they are in that position, like from their perspective, they are in a position where they are forced to accept help, right? So that's not a very good thing for any human to go through. And therefore it's the response to help is not always gratitude. Like, and I feel that it's a very normal thing to do, and I'm aware of it because I have been bitten by that. But at the same time, I can't help myself. It's only very recently that I have been telling myself that uh, I'm not tasked to saving the world, so I should not charge in. Like, if I use, like, I should not be Don Quixote charging at windmills.
That's right,
Right.
Don Quixote. That's right. Yes.
So
And your
so
own form of delusionment. Right.
right.
That's right.
So I need to also tell myself that, like, yes, there are limits to what I can do, and not try to always be helpful, or what I define as helpful. Like, who knows whether I'm really being helpful or obnoxious. So,
Well, and part of the thing is I see it as a very normal thing to, if nothing else, want to know that we're making an impact and we're making a change. And that's why I started the whole webinars, is I needed something to do when we went into COVID, because I had nothing else to do. And it's just like, okay, I'm going to fall back on that. But so explain what is, what's my question here? Let me just think about it for a second. So what do you think, if you could say there's one thing that or there's a consistent thing that gets in the way of business success, what do you think it is? Or what have you seen time and time again?
so we have a sense of so there are a few things. Like, I don't have a mental list, but I will tell you the things which, as a response, which comes to my mind. When we There's this TED talk which goes like, what is it to be wrong, right? And this lady's thing is that like, when we her question to the audience is that, what did you feel when you were wrong? And when we are wrong, at that point in time, we don't feel that we are wrong, right? We feel that we are right, and therefore we are doing whatever we are doing. And so there's this thing in us which prevents us. Like, intellectually, we understand that we are not infallible. And intellectually, we understand we could be wrong about an individual decision we make. But for any isolated decision, it is always very difficult for us to acknowledge that we could be wrong in this particular instance, right? That's again human nature. Like, when we are doing it, we are doing it for a purpose. And even we are not being honest or being hypocrite. Like, we believe that's the best path for us, and therefore we are making it as a human being. And therefore, like, therefore there are things that any business owner decision that they will make which is not right, and they will resist this whole thing of being corrected. Now, the other thing which comes to my mind is, we get into things which we are passionate about. And being passionate about something is only about 1/9 of the whole of the set of things we need to do to be a successful business. You know that, like, I have those 9 questions as to, what do you do, or what do you sell, whom do you sell it to, how do you reach them, how do you maintain relationships, what resources do you need, what activities do you do, who helps you, who are your partners, that is, what does it cost, and how do you get paid? Now, our passion is, what do you need? Like, it brings together skills and things which we need in the business. and we create an offering out of that. So what are we selling? And we almost always have a target customer in mind. Whether it's the right customer segment or not is a different question, but we have a sense of that in mind. So these three make up 1/3 of all the 9 questions that we need to do. Most of the time we are, and some of us would be good in a few of the other things, but as individuals we have our blind spots and we are not aware of what else do we need to do. So I would say that, like, um, not being aware of the entire gamut of all the decisions or all the components of the business is what gets businesses is into trouble.
Do you
Like,
think if businesses knew, let's say entrepreneurs, if they really knew what it take to go into business, how many do you think would not do it? Because had I known what I don't know, I think I might have keep looking for work. Now it's taken me 7 years to get to this point, and and quite literally I'm getting to a tipping point, and I'm going to share something in a bit, something that just recently came to me. But do you think if people really knew, they would go into business?
it's like, in one hand, it seems logical that they would not, right? But we don't operate by logic. Like, and this is
Really?
what,
We
like,
should.
right, we I was when I was studying to be a certified accountant, um, and I didn't like it, but I wanted to do it, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, and was trying year after year. I was getting somewhere, but not quite. And it was almost like that gambler's thing, that if I bet another round, and I will recover all the losses that I have made, right?
Right.
That's not a very logical thing to think of. But in that set mind, in that frame of mind, we do that, right? And then that's what most businesses, like, even if they knew that this is going to happen, they would believe that they would be able to beat the system because of that passion. And entrepreneurs get into it because of their belief. It is, and whenever you say belief, it is not logic.
That's
Like,
right.
it is emotion, it's faith. There's no logic or reasoning over there.
Right.
And that's why we would, I think, still get into it. And when we get out of it, it is not again for reason. It is about being tired, being like, and the effects are almost always emotional. Like, we justify it with reason.
Hmm.
It's easy to do because you can almost justify anything with reason.
Yep.
And that's what I think. My opinion about it.
Yeah.
It's just an opinion.
So I know we have business owners on the call and whatnot, and people that are going into into their own business and whatnot. So let me get into the questions based on the whole show here. How do you take people from here to there? How do you move them from point A to point B? What does here look like? So they've decided they need help. They decided that, okay, they're open, and this is not having to convince or browbeat someone into accepting our services. They're more than a warm lead. They're actually someone that has identified, I'm out of my depth on this. So what does that look like for them? What would be happening for them in their mind to say that I need an external services that you'd be able to bring?
So, like, when the telltale signs are that I'm working on my business, and not just in it. I realize that I have been working in my business, and then I start working on my business, and I see that it is going nowhere.
Just
I
can you just clarify what the distinction is? Because I didn't know when someone first said that to me, I didn't know what the difference was. So can you just clarify working in your
so
business versus
is
on your business?
it's when I say working in the business, get up in the morning, do all the work in my to-do list, which operates the business. So keeps the business going, keeps the machine going, everything rolling. And operating on the business is deciding what would be the direction it would go, whether we should. It's almost most of the time it's the decision making, and I'm going to use the word, even though people, a lot of small businesses shy away from it, the strategy of the business.
Mm.
So the strategy and the tactic, the why and the what and the how, right? The why is the strategy, the how, the what is the tactics, the how is the operations. So in management speak, each business has strategy, a strategic layer, tactical layer, and an operational layer. And the way I would demystify it is by saying, the strategic layer is the why of the business, the tactical layer is the what of the business, and the operational layer is the how, or how it gets done, the standard operating procedure or process of the business. And working in that SOP, the standard operating process, or even in the tactical layer, is working in the business. Working on the business is the strategic layer, and then deciding what to do, what to delegate, whether I'll do it myself or not, is working on the business. So when a person realizes that they have to work on the business and starts doing that and takes some action, and still there is no change, that's when most likely that they would look at, they would consider outside help. Like before that, as entrepreneurs, we are too proud to acknowledge that we need help, right? It's a fact of life. It's why we got into it in the first place.
Wait, hold on. I don't give myself that much credit, thinking I'm too proud on that. I actually thought I could figure it all out. I'm serious. I'm thinking,
Which is almost saying the same thing.
yeah, but it's just like, what I can't. Well, I should be able to figure. I'm a smart guy. I should be able to figure. And I think that is a kiss of death.
Right, and say there is this. I work with the Woodbridge Downtown Merchants Association. The president of that organization, he has a carpet store, a flooring window treatment store. He has been in business for over 25 years. He has a second store, and he has been successful in the way he defines success, right? So if I want to go to him and say that, like, do you, hey, you really haven't been doing A, B, or C, he doesn't really want to do that. Like, he is happy at the level that he is in. So for him, there is no point in for him to go out or ask for help or whatever. It's
Shomo,
only
it's not broken. Why should I fix it?
fix it, right, and
Right?
right. So that's from the outside, and then my question to them, or someone like that, is the typical Warren Buffett thing, which is like, or Mike Tyson's quote, like, everyone has a plan till they're punched in the mouth, right? So so it seems that he was going into the ring, and and he was being told that the other person does this, that, and that's his fighting style, and so do this. So that's when Mike Tyson said that everyone, like, and then later on he said that in a different way, like, everyone has a plan till they get sucker punched, or everyone is doing well till they are sucker punched in their
Right.
on their face. So
Yeah.
that's another thing. Like, so COVID, for example, when COVID happened, and it sort of, we see this conversation about, like, people going out of business because of COVID. Yes, they most likely have gone out of business from this sole from this trigger of COVID, but they were in a bad shape anyway, right? The photographer who had to close his store because he did not have clients being able to come to his studio, um, he was in a bad, I wouldn't say a bad, but like in not a not so comfortable state anyway. I was speaking, I interviewed a mural artist the other day, and last week, Thursday, and he said that, Shoma, during COVID, like, this summer I have been doing more work than I have done in the past.
Hmm.
Right. So it's almost like um, there where when the chips are down, that's when you are really brought to the test, right? And that's when you figure out how good or well your business was. And so if it is not broken, um, yes, it has not been broken till now. I have not broken a limb ever. It does not mean I don't have that risk going forward. So it's always good. I think it's always good practice that's why we go to our doctors for our annual health check, right? Physical, that we make sure that everything, all systems are go, and we go there and do it as an insurance policy. So yes, that's one of the things. But even setting that aside, when a person, to get back to what we were saying, when a person figures out that there's something wrong, that business owner, the first thing that the business owner can do is perhaps a SWOT analysis of the business, a strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, to their own business. They know their business the best. They might get some additional just input from someone to structure their analysis, and they can do it on themselves. So a lot of times they can identify corrective measures themselves, and then go and decide which what type of specific help that they need, or they can ask someone altogether to come in with a fresh pair of eyes. And I
It's
ask
go ahead. Sorry.
and I ask people that if something is wrong with the human body, who's the best person to treat us? It's the doctors. But do the doctors treat themselves? Never.
Well,
So
hopefully not.
hopefully not. It's illegal to self-medicate.
Yeah.
Let us put it that way. So
Yeah.
so so they are too close to themselves to figure out what's wrong with them, and then that's the whole premise or theory of the behind the thing. So if a business realizes that they need help, I think it's the best thing for them to get help from someone that they trust and they rely on, and and hopefully they also trust and rely on a person who is equipped to give them the right inputs.
So a guest of mine, Robert spoke on Widen Your Gaze Friday, 2, 3 Fridays ago, and in my conversations with, he's local. I've known Robert for many years, and he told me something very interesting, and that was, I've been doing this for 7 years, and for up until COVID, work was just coming to me. I didn't have to look for work. Everything was good. Money was coming in. And then COVID hit and his knees went out and he goes, I don't know how to market myself. I don't. And actually somebody said to him, you have been blessed with not having to find work. And now you don't know what the hell to do for your business. So that's a prime example of what you're talking about. And I
Mhm.
said to him, I said, F you, Robert, for being so lucky. I was joking. We have that kind of thing. Right. But it was like, I wish I had that problem, work just coming to me. I'm still trying to learn how to shake the money tree. So my question is, because we're coming up to the top of the hour and that's when we do a transition. So we have a few things I just need to cover. My first question is, what would you say, is there a warning sign that businesses might have that tells them they need to seek external services? What might be an indicator?
The one of the things which I would say they might feel is things have never been better.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
They might feel that I have nothing to prove,
Okay.
which means they have peaked. And by definition, what comes after the peak is the downhill trail. So if any business feel things have never been better, and this is the best, so a month or a year after that, things have not getting any better. That's a like a that would make me very uneasy. Like in my narrow world of of executing projects and say business systems implementation, package implementations, where if before the go live date my team felt that we were coasting along, I would be extremely nervous about the go live date, because it would tell me that things will suddenly get very much worse.
So here's something interesting, and I had no idea how glad, or I didn't think I would get this much value out of that question, and that is, how do I want to preface this? So there's a part of me that, and I suspect this is not healthy thinking or not good, maybe I need to check it. But there is a part of me that goes, I would just like things to I would like there to be less effort. I would like there to be less, like there to be one less learning curve. I would just like to be able to enjoy success without feeling like I'm always worrying about when the next time I have to kill my gazelle. I would just like a herd of gazelles that I could have and do that, right? But I think what it sounds like is complacency could come from that if you get to that kind of success. And then so you keep doing it thinking it must be working because I'm having success and on that. So I could see that being a bit of a killer about the fact that you think you can coast now or you can rest on your laurels because things are working well. Like my friend Robert, who basically thought he didn't have to, because work was coming to him. It wasn't a problem. He was successful. Are you saying I'm never going to be exempt? I'm never going to be free from this?
So it's a weird thing. Like all of us, like all of us at any point in time, I think have challenges that we would wish they would go away. Like um, my challenges and your challenges could be at different scales from the perspective of a third person. Like someone not knowing what to do with their wealth and spending, being going suffering from ulcers out of worrying for what to do with their wealth is a very different problem from someone in the Sahara desert looking for water.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
But the effect it has on the human mind and the body is comparable.
Right.
Right?
Stress is stress.
The stress is stress, pain is pain, no matter how different the trigger has been. So no matter what level or what stage we are in life, I think we always have some challenge that or problem that we wish would go away. I have realized that when I think back, like the darkest periods of my life and even in my work life, um, I can always find instances which I would enjoy remembering. They are happy thoughts, right? But while I was going through that phase in my life, I was not able to enjoy those happy moments because I was everything else was crowded in and so the trick for us, and it's like that's why people say happiness is a state of mind.
Yes.
It is the trick is to be able to look at the silver lining and not look at the cloud. um, I know that intellectually. Can I practice it? No, I cannot.
Well, I'm
Right.
sure there's days that you're better at than others.
Right.
Right.
But the fact that I have been able to psychoanalyze myself and do whatever and be able to articulate it does not necessarily mean that I don't have challenges. And I am sure that's the same for everyone.
Right.
Like the king needs their subjects more perhaps than the subjects need their king.
Right. We're coming up just about 7 more minutes, so I want to ask you about Friday's webinar. So I don't know if I've explained this well enough, but what my desire is to whoever is my guest speaker for Widen Your Gaze Fridays is who I interview on the Mondays before. So that's why I have Shomo, and I'm just going to show an image of what you're going to be talking about. So let me just bring this up here and put that here, and so Shomo, if you want to start talking about Friday's talk, which
Right.
is
Sure.
just
Sure.
demystifying the LinkedIn beast with a peek under the hood.
So what we are going to go through is like there are a ton of people who talk about LinkedIn, and all of them come at it from different perspectives, and I feel that the LinkedIn is somewhat like that elephant in a dark room, and we are all trying to, with eyes blindfolded, we are trying to touch different parts of the elephant to figure out what that elephant is, and various people describe it from wherever they stand, and 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 it is often a bit difficult to have an objective measure as to whether I am doing well in the LinkedIn environment. So LinkedIn itself is a tool which works best in a account-based marketing approach, and that is a subject of another discussion. We are not going to get into that
On Friday.
on Friday.
Okay.
But what we are going to get at is some objective measures which will tell us whether we are on the right path when we are working with LinkedIn. And what I'll be doing is I'll be using LinkedIn Social Selling Index as that objective measure, which is not how I, as an individual or quote unquote an expert, define what success would be like, but it is something would be which we would be able to look at some measures and say that, like, okay, I'm doing well, or even after going through after taking a quick measurement of what my current score is, to be able to figure out, okay, these are the one or two areas where I must concentrate in, and what it takes to concentrate in those areas. So the four measures, or the breakup of LinkedIn Social Selling Index, are four measures of branding, of connections, of engagement, and of relationships. And the LinkedIn way of saying or describing this is whether you have a professional brand, whether you have the right connections, whether you have found the right people, whether you are engaging with insights, and whether you are building this right relationships. And so, like, I will most likely look at it only from the perspective of small businesses or businesses,
Okay.
but these measures are equally applicable if someone is going through, say, a job search process, and if you come to think of it, in a job search process, the offering is your services, your customers is your hiring manager, your partners are the recruiters or the hiring team, and you still are targeting a particular industry and a few companies, and you need to build a relationship with them to be able to get to the jobs which are not published, or to be favorably treated by the whole process. So this is just another one example of how the same measures are applicable to more than just the business environment, because LinkedIn is used by various people for various purposes. we would be looking at just the business, but the principles are applicable to even for a student looking at a placement, for a mid-level executive, for example, looking for a promotion within their own firms, or for small businesses wanting to sell more to their business to business service that they offer, and they are targeting another business.
In your experience, how many people know about this measure?
Very few. The other day, I was speaking to. I did a test run of this of the presentation, and someone who he said that he has 7,000 connections,
Huh.
and he hadn't heard of this measure earlier.
Right.
Um,
What I see people doing when they teach LinkedIn is they're teaching an aspect of it, but that's why I really like the title you came up with. It's like, let's a peek under the hood, what's really going on, and on that. And quite frankly, I'm pretty proud of my image because I thought that's a really
yes,
kick-ass
that's a
image.
great image.
So anyway, okay, we're at the top of the hour. What we're going to do is, as I work on this format, I'm going to show a quick video as the marker between hour 1 to hour 2. It's kind of, there's some shenanigans going on with it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back, and there's a few comments in the chat, and also,
Do you want me to take the last question over there? Michael is asking whether
we're going to come back to the questions.
Okay.
And then we're going to do them, and then that, because I'm trying to see if this format works. Sure. So let me just stop sharing here, and just let me get this set up, because I do have it. There we go. Put this here, and now I need to make sure that computer sound and optimize. And this video is 110 seconds long. So let me, screen 3. And I hope if people have problems with skeletons, there's a skeleton you're going to see. So just to warn you, you might not want to look if it bothers you.
Welcome back to Bare Bones Videos. I'm Luc Bouchard, and this is my co-host Phil, who has actually, looks like he's had a few martinis, and I have to apologize for what is about to come out of Phil's mouth, because you never know what he's going to say. Oh, Phil, I apologize. He's prone to these kind of fits. So, thank you, Phil. Do you want to do the show? Do you want to get into this video? Okay. Let's just read what your first quote is. This first quote, well, no wonder Phil's been drinking. It's a quote from Donald Trump about himself. Love him or hate him, Trump is a man who is certain about what he wants and sets out to get it. No holds barred. Wyndham find his power almost as much of a turn on as his own money. Well, I think I know why Phil's been drinking. So, exactly. I have to agree with you, Phil. Well, what do you have to say about, besides some profanity, Phil, what do you have to say about Donald's quotes? Let's just turn your glass here. When people suck the life out of you, wouldn't it be nice if they took some fat too? Well, I think that's actually a good comeback. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have a favorite quote, send it to us, and Phil will send you a picture of he and I. Thank you very much. You take care. Okay, that's enough, Phil.
So there is 72 of those, and they get better as you go along. And the reason I'm showing them is just to get some traction on them. But also it's about, if we don't take risks, if we don't do things, then it's going to be, we kind of live within our comfort zone. And so they do get better as we go along. And I start using a green screen and stuff like that. So you get to watch them at the beginning on that. We are now going to take questions. I just want to again thank Shomo for coming here and being a part of this guest for today, and I would love to hear what people have to ask. So and it's kind of interesting because that video was taken, I shot that video. I actually forgot that was about Trump, That is in 2016 is when I actually shot that video. So I guess in January 2000, so that was the presidential election hasn't even started yet. And so that's the only one on Trump I do. So you're not going to see more of those. So Michael, would you care to unmute and ask your questions since you have it there, or who would like to go first and ask their questions?
Thank you. Thank you. Shlomo, I hope I said your name correctly. That was an excellent presentation. I really got a lot out of what you were describing. I relate to a lot of what you were talking about. And I'm definitely going to reach out to you because I felt a connection with what you were saying. So
Sure.
Thank you so much on so many levels. My question had to do with your presentation. One of my questions and thoughts had to do with your presentation on Friday. I was just inquiring if you were going to touch on resumes, and it's not a big deal if you don't. There's an awful lot of material out there about, optimizing your resume for LinkedIn. I was just kind of curious because LinkedIn is mostly like a resume/profile format. Like in your presentation, how do we bring the, let's say the branding, the connections and the engagement, the relationships, how is that all expressed in that sort of resume/profile format? Or are you looking at it as separate from the resume? Because of course there are some elements that do specifically point to the relationships, such as the connections. But is there some integration, or is it just a completely separate issue, the resume, from where you're thinking to go with the presentation?
Thanks for the question, and I will. There's one element I will come to for a bit later, but like first I would like to address it saying that like I will be talking about a bit about the profile. Just the profile, I can do a presentation or a webinar which would be 90 minutes to a couple of hours. Like that is the level of detail that to do the subject of just the profile we can get into. That is going to be the profile in the presentation sits in one of those four elements. The first one has 75% of the first one is about the profile. And when we talk about LinkedIn, what I tell people is the difference between a resume and a LinkedIn profile is the resume is a collection of our experiences that has brought us to where we are now. LinkedIn profiles are all about forward looking, and it is about what I can do, what is the value I can do to the person, to the audience. If it is my future employer, then what can I do for that? If it is a prospect or a future client, then what could I do to the client? So one is it's almost like in a job search environment, it is almost like the profile is like the cover letter to the resume. So it's a very different way of looking at yourself. And the first thing which people do when they create their profiles is take their resume, cut paste from their resume, put it on their profile. And while it's better than not having a profile, but definitely it's not the best way to go about doing it. And that would be I would touch upon it, though I will not get into the total depth that I can get into in a webinar which is just on profiles.
Thank you, Michael, for the question. There is some other questions about, Jerome, do you want to talk about the nonviolent communication? I'm curious why where that came from. I don't quite see the
Nonviolent communication. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Nonviolent communication means total empathy. It means you recognize in yourself first your wants, your desires, your dreams. And once you recognize it fully, then you can love another person fully, honestly, You can deal with other people honestly, but if you don't, there's a course that's why I mentioned nonviolent communication. Is by the guy is Marshall Rosenberg. He does a lot of this nonviolence communication all over the world. He did it with Israelis, he did it with Egyptians, gangs, everything. And what it is that you don't look at the words and you don't look what they're expressing. You look at underneath. What needs they haven't met. In other words, if I go to somebody who's cranky, I'm a bookkeeper and I'm trying to make a deal, I got to find out what his needs are.
Right.
And then once you find that out, then he's like a pussycat. You can get anything you want. But the thing is that you first have to go through the front door before you go. You have to go through the back door to go to the front door.
So it's almost like what you're saying is you're not listening to how they're saying, but what they're saying.
Right. And in order to do that, he does it in a course. He has a course. You can get it for free or you can get it online, NBC.com or Academy, whatever. And he shows you how to do it and he explains to you why you're doing it.
Okay.
Interesting. Look, I want to share something.
NBC.
Yeah, it's I think it is. Okay. I lost the. So it's CNVC, I think.
NBC.
NBC. Okay.
NBC.
Okay.
You can go to Academy or .com, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
And you get it for free. You can take a long distance course. But with this COVID that's going on, well, everything's on Zoom and everything else. But it's fantastic, and he actually has rehearsals and he has actual people how he expresses with each other, and it's totally different than anything you ever know. It goes for children, goes for gangsters, it goes for heroin addicts, serial killers, because once you get underneath it, they're like pussycats, because nobody's ever bothered to approach it. It's been going on like that ever since time immemorial, and nobody's ever approached it that way. You say the criminal is guilty, and why is he guilty? Or the woman who raped, why did she rape her? It's because if you got the wants and desires underneath, then you may have saved somebody a lot of trouble. But as long as you disregard it, that's what the problem is.
Funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because on Friday I released a brand new webinar called Communication Fundamentals, and the basic premise of it is that if we don't know how we feel, that's a problem, and that's when we act. And it's the whole focus is truly knowing what our feelings and whatnot, because we're taught in society to recognize 4 feelings: happy, mad, glad, sad. But those are they're harder emotions. But the things like feeling vulnerable or feeling that you are Jeep, I'm drawing a blank now here. Where's my sheet? If the softer emotions are going to be things like you're going to feel isolated, drained, degraded, deprived. Those are harder for us to talk about, because the fact is that we get vulnerable when we owe that. But if it's easier to say I'm happy, glad, mad, sad, because people don't. It's not really exposing ourselves as much as we feel if we go with the softer emotions. So
that's the whole trick. That's the whole trick. You're not fooling nobody. All you're doing is you're being like a rock.
Right.
Once you're a rock.
Yeah. And the thing
everything
is
will
that,
come out.
Yeah, and there's this thing of posturing and feeling like we have to protect ourselves. Shoma, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to share a couple of experiences, and I can relate. Like, this is how I related to it with what Jerome said. There was this project in which the CIO of my client went to my boss, a partner in PwC, and complained that he said that everyone is leaving the project. Everyone is going home on time. Like at the end of the day, when the day ends at 5 o'clock, they are going home. And his point was that he thought that project, it needed more people to overstay and then work hard and stuff like that. And my first reaction was that, like, okay, this is going to be a 2.5, like it actually went to a 2.5 year old long project. And I don't want to burn out my team right at the beginning of the project. So I am letting them go home on time. But then I thought, so what was he actually trying to say? And I felt that he was uncomfortable about something, and he was not able to put a finger on what he was uncomfortable with. And the only data point he had at that time was how long my team was on the premise. That was the only quantified thing he could come up with. And it was my choice whether to, after having like put forward that rebuttal, of whether to ignore that or totally, or to go behind beyond that complaint and figure out what his discomfort was. Like, if I didn't do that, he would he wouldn't be able to come back at me and then say that, Shomo, you are not doing this or that. But then he would keep this grudge at the back of his mind, that I did not take him seriously or did not respond, even after he has forgotten why he has that grudge. Like, at one point, he would have forgotten the incident, but he would hold on to that feeling as to, and we go through life with, like, carrying these packets of feeling with us vis-a-vis another individual, and we are not conscious as to why we are responding to a situation. So that was one incident which immediately came to my mind when he spoke about that.
Right. Yeah, and there's that. It's also this thing too of setting a precedent for the future. So if he brings to you, it's actually precedence with the issue, right? Because he's seeing that you're letting the staff go home early, and then, well, is this how it's always going to be? And then brings a concern. And if you don't address that, then it's going to be, well, then you don't take him seriously, or you blew him off, and that kind of stuff. Right on. I put Shomo's LinkedIn profile or LinkedIn address in the chat box so you guys can access it that way. And I'm just wondering if other people have questions for Shomo about, yeah, go, Michael.
One more thought. I remember in the presentation you were talking about how the warning sign that a business needs help is that it feels like it has nothing to prove, that it peaked. And I was quite surprised by that, because to me, the obvious signs would usually be fatigue or in some way feeling like it's unable. I'm not sure if you explained it, maybe I missed it, but how did you conclude that it's actually when a company feels like it has nothing else to prove, that it's more indicative that it needs help? How did you come to that conclusion?
So my thought was that, like, if I'm fatigued, if I'm burnt out, if I am, that's when not only me but everyone else will also be able to figure out I need help, right? Like, they will. I remember, like, this book, Cry the Beloved Country, Alan Patton, and there's this thing of the granddad going to the city looking for his grandson, and so there's the one thing which he says, that he was in trouble and you all knew about it and you didn't do anything about it, right? So it's almost like we expect our well-wishers to take action if they see we are in distress, and it becomes pretty evident, and most of the time the problem has, it's not a it's not a risk, it's a current issue. Like, it's not forward thinking, you are not being proactive in dealing with something which might be coming your way. It has already hit you, the ship is sinking. Now I'm trying to figure out whether I will bail or plug the leak, right? I feel that, yes, that's definitely something, sometime where we need help if we haven't already got something earlier.
It
But
kind of reminds me of the you're in a relationship with someone and your friends tell you after the fact that that person was a nightmare, going, why didn't you tell me It's just like, what am I supposed to do with this information now? Like, and how's that? And how am I? How's it? You knew all along. It's just like, quite frankly, I literally, it's like you should. I don't want to hear it now. If you're not going to tell me then, I don't want to know it now,
No,
because
right.
now you've just watched this train wreck happen, and you didn't say anything about it, and makes me want to swear. But anyway, that's what I reminded me of that. So maybe
Right,
not the
right.
best.
Right, maybe not the best. But at that point, like there is, it's the issue has already happened. This, I there might be a chance where it is you cannot recover. So the best time is when to do something about a future problem is while it has not happened. Like in the same way, when we say that um, the best time to build a network is when you don't yet need the network, right? So it's making sure that we are able to go ahead and do stuff forward, going forward. Um, so the time to act on it is before it has happened. And and I thought like the early indicator was when everything seems to be going just fine.
So I would actually
Michael
like.
Michael had
Sorry.
another follow-on question, I think.
Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
No, I find it fascinating. I loved your answer, that yeah, when everything seems to have peaked, you don't think that you need help. That's when you actually, but I'm not exactly connecting with how does it indicate that you actually do need the help? Because it seems like if the gears are working, if the car is driving, then I'm probably not going to take it to the mechanic. If I'm
No,
not
right,
hearing
right,
knocks,
right, right, right. And I totally agree with you on that. So it you may not. So the first step of needing, like what I was responding to at that time was, I think, when do you take a gut check as to whether you need help or not? Like that's a thing time where you ask yourself, is everything fine? Like it might be my answer might come from a bit of paranoia on my part, like always thinking if things are too good to be true, most likely it is too good to be true. That might be the perspective which I have grown up with, or things have happened this way. That's my opinion, right? Like who says it's the correct one or right? But I feel that like I would rather do risk management in my life than do issue resolution. And issue resolution comes in when things are, which it is after the fact, and risk management happens before the fact. And that's just my approach to life. Like I would rather do risk management than issue resolution.
Michael, you're good? Yeah. Um, so, okay, so this is, I have good news to share, and that is, I've been, as a lot of you know, I've been asking to get on other platforms to speak. And last Tuesday, I get a meetup, a message through Meetup out of the blue from someone saying that his company is idea to IPO. Remind me what IPO means, please, again.
initial public offering.
Initial public offering. That's right. So anyway, this guy says that he runs these meetups and he has over 100,000 members, and he wanted to know if I wanted to start presenting, if I would present on his platform. And so it was like, yeah. And he also asked, would you go with affiliate partners, which is that he wants, I'm on his platform, so he wants some money on that, which is absolutely fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever. He spent a lot of time doing this. His meetups, like he has 3 cities in Canada. He has in Siberia, he has a meetup with 2,000 members in Siberia. And one in Africa. I forget where the city is in Africa that he has it, but he has it all over. And so because I come from a place of being honest and open, and I said, yeah, I have no problem paying because this is your platform. You spent all this time working on it, but I don't know what it is what I should be paying, right? Well, where he went immediately was 50%, whatever I take. And that's actually, I know that's the number out there. I know that if you, for the Brendan Bouchards and the Tony Robbins, if you're on their stage, they're minimally taking 50% of what it is, right? So I didn't really have an issue with that. But my issue is, on my elevator pitch diagnostic, which is now going for $49, that's $25 or 25, 24 and change, which is fine. But then I have my other services, and it's just like, okay. So my question is that he gets me business, that's fine, but when does that end? And it's just like, when does that stop me constantly being, I don't want to say the word indebted, because I feel very grateful to be asked on that, but there's a point where I'm going to go, there has to be a cutoff on this. And so the negotiation on that, and on my longer programs, my year programs, that's like, 50% of that really cuts a lot out.
So,
ahead,
look, like most of the 50% rate is most of the time by folks who consider themselves as internet marketers. So the affiliate program and that whole thing, it's a standard thing of 50%. And so if you are selling a service which is like $49, then they are taking the 50% of the $49.
Right.
But any subsequent sale is not part of that. So a subsequent sale is your sale to that person.
Yeah, and I willingly and happily agreed to the second level, because what you're saying is the multiple levels of saying that, yeah, if the elevator pitch diagnostic leads to other thing, I'm going to do that. But what I said is, repeat customers, I'm not going to continue
Correct.
pay on that.
Correct.
And at a certain level, it wouldn't be even I think I could have stopped on this and whatnot. He's acting in good faith. He's giving me this opportunity. Quite frankly, if I'm going to be honest, I need the business, on that. And he's going, and I believe him when he goes 100,000 people. He goes, the number fluctuates. I have no doubt. He actually has some of his partners. I think one of his partners is Microsoft, because he sees how many entrepreneurs are there. So they're actually paying him to do this. Now, whether or not, I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but that kind of exposure is absolutely gold for me on that. So what I said to him is, on the second level, I will, I'm going to give you not a percentage. I'm just prepared to give you amount. And then after that, it's done. And I'm not going to continue on that. And we're going to renegotiate because we had stuff to figure out and whatnot. But my point is, and I'm going to be honest here, is I'm over my head. I fully admit I'm over my head. And my ex-wife, who we had Thanksgiving dinner yesterday together with my kids, because my kids went over. We spend holidays. She's a lawyer. She's a partner in the world's biggest law firm. She bills out at $6.50 an hour. She's very smart. And what she said to me, and this is honesty, is, you're not good at business, Luke. And I know I'm not good at business. It doesn't come naturally to me on that. So there's a part of me that goes, I don't even know where to ask my dumb questions. Well, I do now. I have you, Shomo, for that, and others on that. But there is this thing of going, as a business person, I'm very passionate about it, but I am not good as a businessman. I give my services away far more than I should. And there's an ethical dilemma, because fortunately, I live a very good life.
Let me ask you a question.
Yep.
Let me ask you a question. This course will do you a world of good, because once you have what your wants and desires are handled, you have no more further problems. As long as you hold on to what you're holding on, you're not going to resolve it.
Well,
you can resolve it very easily if you take the course. I'm telling you.
Well, there's a reason why we all have blind sides. It's because we don't know what we don't know.
Well, that's what the course is.
Right.
Course, what it does, it makes you a sounding board. It makes you a rock. Once you're a rock, then you can love others. You can deal with others. You have no problems, because they're the ones that got the problems, not you, because you resolved all those issues within yourself. But you have to be taught correctly how to do it. That's why I gave you that information, NVC.
Right. But in this case, I think what Luke is asking is like specific, like business advice, business strategy.
Right,
Not
but
saying
also
that,
his
no,
fe-
NVC. No, I'm familiar with NVC. I
right.
actually
But the
did a
thing
little bit
is,
of
in his
reading on it.
case, he's going by his feelings. He's going by past failures, past successes, dealing with his wife and his kids and everything else. All that will be handled through NVC because what it does, it just gives you an edge. That's
Right,
all it is.
NVC is a good framework, but in terms of specific business steps, like what exactly to ask for, and thinking about the pros and cons of where to cut it off or what's a fair and equitable percentage, that's where a business strategist would, be able to add valuable input.
Yeah,
Not
but
saying that
who is
NVC,
but
not
who
saying
is
that
thinking
NVC
it?
is not valuable. NVC is
No,
definitely
listen to me.
valuable,
But who
but
is
but
thinking
a
of all
business
these business
strategist would be
decisions?
helpful.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
but the
gentlemen,
old him is thinking of the business decisions. When he becomes a total rock, then he becomes a new person where he can think differently and he won't fail as he did before. So he thinks, but that's not him that's doing it.
Well, I think you're making some presumptions as to how far I progressed on my.
I didn't
on
say
my
you.
math.
I'm just using an example.
Okay.
Just use an example,
Yeah.
not you.
Okay.
I
So-
apologize if I
No,
if you
no,
feel
it's
that way.
no, it's all good. It's just I have a problem with I take issues with one thing solving everything because I don't think the world's that simple. And so, Chris, yes, go ahead.
Actually,
Sorry.
No, it's all good. No, it's all good.
thanks.
It's open.
Thanks, Jerome. Another question to Shroma. So, Shroma, how would you propose, maybe if you helping Luke deal with some of these issues he was just talking about?
Come again, Chris?
Okay, so I think Luke was talking about some issue, it was not very easy to do the right. I think it's like the right kind of business negotiation, and I'm not going to try to explain it because otherwise I'd probably butcher it. So how would you
Help Luke.
how would you help Luke?
So like the thing is that like the first thing is to like to identify and separate the issues into components, right? And so is it like just this whole thing of how much do I have a challenge in pricing my offerings, right? And I think all new entrepreneurs have that like, are we asking for more than we deserve, and things like that. And also it has to do with something from the past, like our journey thus far. Like as a PwC consultant, I used to do a lot of stuff which were considered business development cost. As a solopreneur, those are am seeing others, whatever we would do as a build up to an offering, people are charging for that build up. So things like, it's almost like if you go to a food court, the samples which people pass out, for you to draw them to their restaurant or kiosk. In my other life, those samples were free. In this framework, I see people selling those samples. So if we sort of break it down into those components, and then we figure out who's the right person to go to. Like if it is a pricing question, I know that I'm not the right person to go to, right? And maybe there is another person who works with these, whom I know, like, trust, and I go to that person, and then we ask, and it's again an opinion that we are getting, right? At the end of the day, when people ask for my opinion, or even as a consultant, I will have an opinion, I'll make a recommendation. But then beyond that, it is the business owner who takes the decision, because I don't consider myself accountable, or if I'm not walking his shoes and getting and enjoying or suffering from the consequences of my decision, then I should let that other person take those decisions, right? So no matter whom Luke listens to, At the end of the day, I would say that Luke has to take the decisions himself because he knows what's best for him. Like there might be blind spots, but once the blind spots have been illuminated, he is the best person to take the decisions about his life. So as a consultant, or in my world, what I do is when I go through that 9 question setup or that approach, and I say that, okay, what I feel, where I in your positions, or this is my recommendation that you do ABC. I told one of my clients, yes, Amazon looks very promising for you, but I don't think you are ready for Amazon. And she kept on telling me, yes, she felt that she was ready. And then I told her, okay, go and look up these webinars or these free training courses. And she came back and said, I now understand what you are saying. So I don't know whether I have answered that question. Like breaking it up into components, finding out who the best person to respond to those components, and taking a decision based on that, the new set of facts, is what I would recommend.
See, part of the thing that I run into is I don't even know what questions to ask at times. Like there's a part of me that goes, I don't know what questions to ask. And when somebody had said that to me many years ago about, do you even know what questions to ask? I'm going, that gave me permission to go, oh, I don't have to know it all. Because the presumption is if I have a question to ask, I might have an idea of what I'm doing, but it's just like, it's kind of like, if you ask 5 people what marketing is, you'll probably get nine answers. It's just like it's all over the map and whatnot. So it's on that, and part of it is just not knowing, what to think and whatnot. And then this is where I think probably some of where Jerome's uh, comments really come in about the fact that, and a solid and whole on myself. One of the things that went on with this guy offering to that is I actually felt indebted to him. I actually felt like he's offering me an opportunity and I need to respect that. So there was some scarcity coming into that, which is probably what Jerome's talking about. If I'm more whole within myself, I'll know that I can't be rocked on that kind of stuff. So that's not that I can see some value with that. But it's having to make these decisions in the moment and being able to, and also the posturing that I feel I need to get into. Like it was just like so I don't look like I'm a flippin' neophyte when it comes to business. So that's ego,
Yeah. So what I sort of, so the other way I'd frame that question is, how do I know what I don't know? Right. To identify the I don't know that place, which is the blind spot. Right.
Right.
How do I identify a blind spot? And the way when I think of it, what I feel is whether the subject I'm talking about, whether people have there are enough, whether there's a specific process laid out for that already, then I follow that process. If there are already enough, if there are people whom I know, like trust, who have experienced that, then I go to them. But in some cases, I deal with a lot of startups, right? Startups by definition are untested business models. So if it is an untested business model, then there isn't anyone who has done that very thing earlier. So then it is a good framework which can tell me that, like, if there are 9 areas to look at and there are 20 questions in each of those 9 areas that I need to look at, then which question am I missing? Do I have answers to all the questions? And it's like, if there is a periodic table of elements and I look at that and I see that there are some cells missing, then I know what to go and look for. So if someone hands me a periodic table of the journey that I'm going into, then it is easier. I wouldn't say it's a foolproof method, but it is easier for me than to go and ask people for those questions. Again, having said that, in this context, in this forum, do I take the right decisions all the time? Hell no.
Right. It's interesting because when I started down this path back in March 24th, as a matter of fact, was my first webinar. And then I started landing clients and whatnot. There was this thing of having to make a sale in a different jurisdiction under COVID-19. So it's like, so one guy that actually took me up on this service and whatnot, he told me that he had hired a company at the beginning of the year. He's on the East Coast, and that company charged him $8,000 to help him with his messaging. And he goes, at the end of it, all they gave me was a sheet of paper, and they didn't tell me anything. There was nothing, no good to me. And he stopped, and it was supposed to use them for like a year and that kind of stuff. It was a model on that. And, so I know that in the short time I worked with him, I brought him farther than that company because he told me that than what they had on that. Right. And then, so around this time I'm trying to figure out what my pricing model is. And I actually have a client. I have an entrepreneur, and I tell her my current pricing struggle, module, or my structure, and she says this to me. She goes, "Are you sure you're not undervaluing your service?" And I go, "Ah, shit, I've left money on the table." Because if she thinks I'm undervaluing it, I could have paid more for it. And I don't know if this is a sound decision, but I would rather her say I'm charging too little and still hire me than charge, maybe, let's say, charge $500 more, and she goes no, because, and I have no idea where that sweet part is, where it's like, it's like, if I heard a businessman say, if people aren't complaining about your prices, you're not charging enough. And I don't know what to think about that. Like, not the business guy here. So I'd rather her say I'm not charging enough and still get her than it go away and going, I don't know, so I should drop it by how much, right, type of thing. But seriously, selling in a different country is like, I have no idea what the market will bear, and I have no idea what's appropriate under COVID-19.
I mean, may I ask, have you done any like calculating like what your expected take home pay would be after expenses? Have you kind of gauged approximately, like, have you done any kind of math to figure out about how much you expect to take away from it?
From that particular contract?
Yes.
No, because it's no, because quite frankly, it was the beginning of many, or no, it was this beginning of trying to figure out what it is. And I know and this is not a complaint at all by any stretch of the means. I know I'm being underpaid, but there's a payoff for me on that of being able to have a regular work, regular income coming in. And the fact I can say I have clients in the United States now, as opposed to saying, yeah, I'm still looking for them. So yeah, so no, I haven't on that.
No,
So
I understand, and I agree with that strategy. I'm in the same boat, but I'm asking from the standpoint of, as a way of measuring what first of all, what your take home is based on, how many people you served at, let's say, each event. And then maybe keeping a spreadsheet or something like that over time, seeing how you price yourself over time. And also, like, going forward, start to network with other broadcasters or podcasters like yourself, and then, see if you can work in conversation to get a sense of, how, what are their pricing strategies. And I would say, not only podcasters and broadcasters, maybe even, traveling ministers who come in, if, at your local church or whatever, if there's even a way you can strike up a conversation with them afterwards, because I'm just saying, different people who do what you do, to get a sense of how they price it, and then compare that to your own personal statistical data as to how many people you served, what was the venue, start to look at your own marketing metrics, your own market metrics, to see, is this for both your level of experience as well as the number of people you've served in each venue. That's one way to begin to kind of figure out what your pricing should be. Just a thought.
Thank you. Shomo, you were going to say something?
yeah, as long as you don't have a wait list, which means that you have available time, right, to service client. So if you don't take on, even if you take it on at half the rate that you can charge for that, you are filling up as uh, zero revenue with a non-zero amount. Like
Regardless
you,
of what I would like to make an hour, I'm still
right,
making money
correct,
coming in.
coming in.
Right.
So when you have your whatever hours that you can work humanly filled out, and you have a wait list, that's when you can look at who are the clients you can fire, or how much rate you can hike up, so that like some people will go away when you increase that rate, right? But you would, if you have a wait list, which is a wait list and a pipeline, a strong pipeline, then you know you would be able to replace that with the people, and your day will again be filled out. Like
It's
so,
yeah, it's funny you should mention that, because one of the things that this opportunity with this guy in California is, one of the things I said to him is that, you know, depending on how busy I am, I will throttle this. I will either increase it or I'll decrease it on that. Well, I probably won't go any less than I'm doing now, but I will actually, if a lot of work's coming in, then it's going to go up to basically have that, because I'm in demand and whatnot. So
and the other thing which people say, and I sort of I agree with it, which is we are still like when I got out of my corporate life and then I've come into consulting, I'm still in the mindset of dollars for hours, right? And it is difficult to scale business with that. You can grow a business, but you can't scale. The difference between again growth and scale would be you earn more without investing more resources, right? So it is when typically the digital products are the things which are lend itself the best to scale,
like online programs or whatnot.
like online programs, and
Got it.
that's what I
Right.
was going into. So if you can, so if you have like a, say if you have a training program which has 5 people, without um, spending more efforts to conduct that program, if you bring in 10 like 5 people to 10 people, you have scaled that in the same hours. So there are various ways, like you can create a training program which you sell. Like I have created, I have sold a training program which used to retail at $97, and I would get 45 out of it because of the same affiliate marketing setup. And so those were once done. You can look at whether you could do a part of your services as trainings, which people could, for example, take at Udemy or not.
Right. Right.
I was just thinking, if I may piggyback on that, Shomo, thank you. You could also, Luke, add to your website maybe a members only section to where subscribers can then access premium content. So where you can literally go through your entire library of trainings, teachings, and you can determine what you would want to, post, whether on a rotating basis or as a complete library, and then subscribers would have access to your content, like your best material that they'd be willing to pay for. So that's passive income because it's based on work you've already done. You're not shooting anything new. And it really does feed the customer demand for, premium content and feel like they're part of something special.
So I know that you have a Udemy course, right?
Yes, that's right.
That's which is for free.
Yep.
Now, if you add on a membership, Facebook membership to it, like anyone who is there, but that membership comes at a cost. And in lieu of that cost, you give them coaching. The fact that you are connecting people to people itself has a value, even if you don't give a cent of effort into it. just the opportunity to network, interact, and do something themselves is of value. Like I know that when I organize stuff at the library, if I say this is a networking come workshop, I bring in more people
Hmm.
than if it is just a workshop. So
Right.
people love the opportunity of being able to connect with others,
Okay.
and this whole thing of that has a value, right? So I would jump into this call not only because I like the content that Luke does, but because I'm able to connect with Michael or Mary or Jerome. I know that I would also find someone whom I already know, like Chris, and strengthen that relationship.
That's really good information because I wasn't. I feel kind of sheepish to admit this, but I wasn't thinking about the value of people connecting to each other, right? And it seems to be a bit of a no-brainer. I'm just noticing the time. I want to now at this point, I just want to talk about whether webinars I have coming up so people can know about them. So I'm going to share that, and let me just hold on here. 1 second, please. Okay. And one screen too many here. Where is my, there we are. Okay, share screen. So the other webinars I have coming up, we're in today's Monday. So tomorrow I will be, there we go. How to have a kick-ass elevator pitch, part 1, the value proposition. As a matter of fact, I'm actually retitled this. I haven't changed it, but let me just show you what the new title is going to, or the new images of it. So I'll just share a different screen and try this. And the reason I've actually changed my titles is because this new relationship I have, he actually doesn't want off-color language like that, which I'm fine of changing it up on that. So this is one I have coming up, and this is the new image for it, and that's going to be tomorrow, but you'll be seeing the new images at another time. And let me just continue with this here. So 2 days later, I then have going to be creating meaningful connections of part 2 of the elevator pitch. And that is really about how do you build those relationships once you've started talking to people. And I use a couple models in there to help people understand that. And then on Friday, I don't have here, Shumo's talk is going to be on the LinkedIn Beast. So that's going to be. And then the following week, we have coming up, going to be becoming a subject matter expert. And I am doing that on the 22nd. And then I don't have a webinar 2 days later because I'm a guest speaker someone else, but on my Widen Your Gaze, the Friday after that, is going to be from Susan Shepherds, and heal your wounded heart and find love through personal development and love with class. I'm really excited and looking forward to this because she has a very no-nonsense approach to relationships. And I kind of like how she holds women accountable about basically, just it's not about holding them accountable, but it's like I find that she kind of gets men and she understands what we're about. So, if you have time on Friday, I would check that out because I think it's going to be a great presentation. And she's an author and fun stuff like that. And then I have dealing difficult interview questions on the 27th, and then ageism on the 29th. So if you can check those out, that would be great. And that's what's coming down the pike. So, Sho, what are the big takeaways going to be on Friday with your talk?
How to want to decide whether LinkedIn is something which you would want to invest time in. Um, the it seems like a no-brainer, but there are people who have told me we I am not on LinkedIn because I'm a professor. I'm not on LinkedIn because I'm a doctor, and there are so things like that. I'm hoping there would be questions. If there are such people, then there would be questions which would come up to figure out how much would they want to um, invest and expect out of it, and then how to decide which part of the beast to tackle is what I think would be the most helpful thing in the and whether they are doing stuff, if they are doing things, if it is not translating into an uptick in those measures, then why is that a thing to be um, concerned about, or thing to recognize and have a plan for it? Like, what is so what is so nice or holy, so to speak, about those measures? Like, why are those measures of vanity metrics, or do they actually matter?
Right. Are they bragging rights of saying
Are they
I have this
bragging
number?
rights?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I not that I don't know. In the last couple months, on one of my webinars, I had a woman who she asked me about LinkedIn, and the reason why she didn't have a profile is, so let me give a bit more information. This woman was, I would say, north of 50, and she had immigrated to the United States in the last, I think, 5 or 6 years. And what she had said is, well, I don't have anything to show for what I've done here in the United States. So I don't think I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for my next doctorate, not one of her first doctorate. Like, I'm waiting for my next doctorate to be done so I can put that on LinkedIn. And I said, well, I advised her by saying that, it's the sum of you didn't show up in the United States unskilled. You have all this stuff, all these accomplishments and whatnot, and not showing that you have them because they're not pertinent here. I thought it was a mistake on that, but she was waiting to have it because she didn't think what she had was current. And what would you say to someone like that, Shomo?
So the thing is that, like, LinkedIn again, it's not there. I read this comment somewhere else that, like, if you realized how less people think about you, like, in their mind, I don't matter, right? They are thinking about themselves and what. So it's not a question of projecting my accomplishments. If I'm there, and if I reach out, and if I can help a single person, then that sort of triggers off a chain reaction which ultimately gets back to me. So in order to create that tide,
Yep.
it doesn't really matter. Just like someone said, 80% of the whole thing is just showing up, right?
I say
So
that all the time. Yeah.
right. So show up. That's it's as basic as that. Like, you don't need to have a huge amount. So then students who are fresh out of high school shouldn't be on LinkedIn, right? Because they
They
haven't
have
yet
nothing to show for what they've done.
show, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But each of us are, and I really believe that, like, each of us are human beings. Like, we are humans in our own individual rights. If we can't respect ourselves, if we can't show ourselves the dignity, then why will anyone else show us any dignity whatsoever? So
Well, and I think, yeah.
and the Japanese has this thing of, like, when they offer a business card to you, they have, like, they offer it, like, they take the business card and they hold it like this, and they offer it like this. So the thing is that this is the business card at that point in time is my representative, which I'm offering you. If I am not paying respect to this card, then why should you pay a slightest bit of respect to this? So it is like that showing up piece. actually has that individual thing of that confidence that as a human being, I matter. I am here in this world, I matter. And so that's enough. Like if you are a human being, that's all the qualification that you need.
And that's, I think, was some of the stuff that Jeremy was talking about, is the fact that we have to feel that. Michael, we're almost at the top of the hour, so you're gonna say something, Michael?
Just wanted to piggyback on Shomo earlier in your talk when you were sharing your story. You know, to answer Luke, your comment about the lady having so much experience and not feeling that it's relevant. You know, I'm encouraged by Shomo, your presentation today, because you talked about your story. And that's an area that I struggle with also, in terms of how do I best frame my story in terms of showing my value. So that may be an issue that the lady is having as well, where she has so much experience, but how, you know, like what are the themes that actually make it perhaps relevant to the person that she's offering herself to?
Right. Well, and there's that saying that people are only tuned in to one radio station and one radio station only, and that is WIIFM. What's in it for me? And I'm just recently reminded of one of my favorite quotes, and that is, people do not buy one people do not buy 1/8-inch drill bits. They are buying 1/8-inch holes. But what we do is we constantly focus on the drill bit, not on the hole in our sales. And I don't need a drill bit. I need a hole. I need that hole to be fixed, you know? So if we can remember what our features are, no, sorry, if we remember what our benefits are, and
Benefits
not
are.
benefits on, and because we focus on the features, but we focus on the features, not on the benefits. Okay. On that note, we're at the top of the hour. That's 2 hours in. This is the second segment of the Here to There show. Thank you so much for being part of this today, and Shomo, I'm really excited about what you're going to be showing us on Friday. And I'm just going to get everyone else to sign off. And Shomo, if you could just hold on so we can have a quick debrief. And thank you all, and thank you all for your contribution. You guys take
Thank
care.
you, Luke and Shomo.
You're very welcome.
Thank you,
Thanks, Murray.
everyone.
Bye.